Welcome back to another episode of the Low Man Help podcast. I am joined today by my former college roommate, 3x NBA champion, owner of not one, but two pet pythons in college and early NBA years. RIP Jade, the one and only Danny Green. Danny, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, man. Hell of an introduction. They were boas, by the way.
I'm sorry.
And they have not been around for a while, but yes. RIP Jade, lost her when I left Canada about 5 years ago now. And the other one, he was a lot to deal with. The second one was always in and out. Jade was the only stable one that I kept. But yes, the days, man, the times before I had a steady relationship and I had to take care of pets of my own. So that's why I got a reptile. But,
Jade was a part of the family.
She was. Now I have dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a wife now. Got people to help me watch pets and, have kids now too. So big kid. But yeah, life comes at you fast. Things change. No more snakes. I don't think she's allowing it in this household.
No, probably a good thing for Gizmo, Nuke, B, and W. Yeah.
They actually got along with them. Gizmo and Nuke got along with Jade pretty well.
I don't believe that Nuke gets along with anybody. All right. Gizmo, I believe. Gizmo's a good boy. All right. So, Danny Green, into the pod. We are talking two-man games. One of the things that we love the most, I loved coaching it. I loved working with players. You were one of the best two-man game guys at some very specific ones that we're going to get into. We're really looking at handoffs, DHOs, get actions, pick and rolls, like these three. DHOs, gets, and pick and rolls, they're the lifeblood of the game right now. Every single level of basketball is doing these, and it doesn't matter if you're playing in the NBA, college, even youth levels. Like, this is what's being run. And one of the things that's so cool about them, in my opinion, is that it's just like an inflection point to try to create chaos and then play from there. Like, just create some sort of, advantage and then take that advantage and trickle it down and press it down further. So I have some of my favorites. Let's get into some of yours. Between the DHO, the get, and the pick and roll, I've been dying to know, which one was your favorite to run?
I'm going to go with, it's a tough one between these two, but for me, probably number one would be DHO. And then get would be number two. But that can go, they're both 50-50.
Yeah.
Those are my pick and roll. Obviously, I don't handle the ball at all. I don't handle it well. There's a reason why I didn't handle the ball. I'm sure if I worked at it, I would get better at it. But it wasn't my forte.
That wasn't your forte, no.
Per se. No. So DHOs and get action, I was pretty solid with. Get action, I probably started doing a little later. We did some in San Antonio, but later in the career, I wasn't a focal point for me. Obviously, it was swing, and a lot of plays were DHOs and me doing some backdoor cuts and stuff like that. But the get action didn't happen as often in San Antonio earlier years, but later it did. Had to earn that. So yes, 50-50.
So little clarification just for everybody of like DHO to get, like the subtle differences. The get action, you are throwing the ball, and to me the biggest difference, the way to describe it, is that the guy doing the handoff, the setter of the handoff, the ball manipulator, he has a live dribble still. So like he can put it down. There's a little bit more optionality versus DHO. He is dribbling at you. The dribble is already live. So for him to turn the corner, if he sees somebody up at the level, it's a little bit harder versus like in a get action. Draymond's amazing at this. When he feels with Steph somebody up at the level and he hasn't used the dribble yet, he does a great job of just slipping that action and getting downhill and playing 4 versus 3 or 3v2, whatever it is. And so like, to me, if you can get the get action going and you can get it going quickly, there's a little bit extra of a layer of like, you still have that ball manipulation of you can run fake handoffs and things like that and get downhill because you still have that live dribble. So biggest difference. And I'm a big fan of that. I've worked with guards in the league. I've worked with big guys. And I will say that like the big guy I worked with was great handling the ball. And one thing that he wanted to do more of, and he actually got to it later in his career, but like wanted to run more DHOs, wanted to run more get actions. And one thing he would always say is that like, a league minimum big could do this when it came to like setting like 30 pick and rolls or 25 pick and rolls. Like, and a league minimum guy can go set this. Like the more you get up in the layers of like, as we get through the best handoff guys and get guys, like you see guys that are skilled, like they have some quirkiness to their game. They have some guard skills. They can play make. And like to me, I think when you have one of those guys, it's important to lean into those actions because there's a lot more optionality to it.
100%. And usually the role players or the minimum guys are the ones that set the best screens. Actually care about, and you know the fundamentals, man. The screener is usually the guy that's always open. So if you're smart enough to know the game, you want to set screens. You want to get good. You want to get a piece of guys so that ultimately it'll open the floor up not only for your teammate but for you mostly. Because every time you set a good screen, somebody's open and both guys are trailing. Next year you're wide open for a slip at the basket or for a pop back or whatever. But those are winning plays. Very small details that are winning plays.
Who is your favorite guy to play get DHO actions with? Who was the big that you felt you had the best chemistry, that you were like, ooh, yeah, this is my guy. Like, we're going to get something good.
It's hard to pick just one. And so the third option that I like the most is a shoot behind, because in modern day NBA now, everybody switched everything. So the last couple of years when I was with Ben Simmons, he drive and it's a guard to guard switch. So instead of coming off of it, I would act like I'm coming off it, catch it, stay behind. My guy would switch underneath. Other guys too far, now I have open three. But my top two guys, number one, Timmy. He's just one of the best screeners in the history of the game because they weren't always legal. But he knew how to get you open, knew how to set, and he was the best passing big that I played with, right?
Huh.
So he underrated passer. I would get 4 to 6 points a game just off backdoor cuts because he would wait. I was running the play, and every cut is a live action.
Yeah.
Even though I'm coming across at a cross screen, you look for the ball because Timmy will act like, and he'll throw you that ball, and I'll get a layup. So with him, he was just so good at screening and finding and getting me open. Was amazing. But it makes it so much easier when you have a guy that's also a lob threat. Not that Timmy couldn't jump, but a guy like a Dwight Howard, who also is not going to set the most legal. He's very strong. He might not set the most legal screens, but you have him or Anthony Davis, and you're able to get over at the top. And that big is so far back. You got floater, pull up, mid range, or you got lob. Crazy stat. I think at one point on the team when I was with the Lakers, I think I was the second leading assist lob guy behind, I think, Bron. So like I had thrown the second most lobs because it was me, AD, me and Dwight, or JaVale. It's like, all right, you step up, I'm throwing a lob, or you're going to give me a floater or a layup, you know? So it's easy to get downhill, especially when they know you're a shooter and they have to chase you over the top. You got the guy at your mercy. You're behind them. You had an advantage. So
yeah, I love
those are some of the guys
that you brought that up. Like being a shooter in these actions. I love that you brought that up because like I pulled the top 5 combos of handoffs. And so I filtered it for minimum 50 that are run. And I think like
makes sense.
Yeah, like just, there's like maybe like 24 or 25 that have run at least 50 because like you're not just running one, it's like together. So Bron and AD were one, but like the volume is just so low. They barely qualified. They only run 5 per 100 possessions. But if you kind of look through, there's like a very specific archetype that comes up in these handoffs where you can just juice these points up. And there's 3 that really stick out to me: Sabonis, Malik Monk, Bam Adebayo, Duncan Robinson, and Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero. And like the fact that Bam's in there twice and Sabonis in there, like this archetype of like your archetype, which is like a shooter with speed that can shoot off movement and then get downhill if you're being trailed. And I think Sabonis and Bam are these perfect guys. Like they're not your league minimum guys. Like they have skill in the short roll. They can play make for others. Like they can hit a floater, both of them. They can finish.
Very good passing bigs. And the other thing that I noticed about that list, the guys on the list, Rudy, Bam, Anthony Davis, lob threats. Not only passing bigs, but lob threats, can set really good screens. And the other guy that's handling the ball, very good at mid-range floaters. So Tyler Hero, very good mid-range, very good float guy. Mike Conley, either hand can float. Yep. So you have to, as a big, decide or make a decision: do I contest this float? Do I step back for this big or the lob? Because a floater could turn to a lob in half of a millisecond, and you're at their mercy. So those are the guys we talk about. Guys that ran the pick and roll the best back in the day, or DHOs, or the toughest. The guys that I'll list to you are the guys that were very good at scoring and had very good lob threat options at the time.
Yeah. When I talk to guys about the 2v1, which is like basically what we're talking about, like lob versus float. I think lob versus float is like one of those pivotal moments if you're going to play any type of 2-man game. and you're going to play pick and roll basketball or handoff basketball, whatever it is, if you've set up the action to where now you're downhill, your man is trailing you, like our screeners got released and now we're playing 2v1 in the middle, like your job to me, when I like talk guys through, your job is to make the guy break his coverage. So like I always use the term break of like guys are playing two, and Al Horford's one of the best of this, but guys want to play two. They want to play both. And it has to be you the whole time until it's not, until he breaks coverage. And if you're not willing to take the mindset of like, this is me until he breaks, I think bigs are so good in the league at faking you, getting good angles, that like you get caught up in trying to find the highlight lob play. So
Yeah.
your mindset when you were in
It's also personnel, right? So bigs know who's coming off aggressive, who's coming off to score. Malik Monk, we know he wants to shoot the basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like Mike Conley is going to look to pass more. Me, they know if I'm not shooting a three, I'm probably looking to pass it. And that my percentages of the floater or mid-range aren't as great. So they're like, we'll live with that. Most teams are living with 2-pointers now. Contested twos, contested floaters, fine. You're shooting threes on the other end. So my mindset was, and it took a while to learn this because I'm not a guard. I'm not a guy that comes off D. And said even the guys that were great that I play with, I didn't get a chance to run DHOs or get actions with a lot. Like I didn't get a chance to run with AD a lot, or even Marc Gasol. Like there's so many bigs that I play with. Joel, I didn't get a chance to do much with, you know what I'm saying, with him. So it was a very, very small scale with me and very few times, and most of it was in San Antonio. My mindset
what did you like to look at?
I'm always trying to look up to set my big up.
Did you look at hips or shoulders? Like what?
My first thing was if I catch for a three, cool in the DHO. If I'm open, great.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to get my guy open, get a three. But if my big gets me open and I don't have three and I get downhill advantage, I'm looking to set him up to throw him a bone.
So I'm gonna give you the best like pick and roll guys, the best 5 pick and roll guys, because I think that is such an important element, which is like,
these are all interesting to me.
You think these are like one of the most important things to me, I feel like, is when you're in the pick and roll, like, and you're downhill, like you have to be able to understand like how to break coverages. You have to be able to do things. And so one thing I feel like that like pops in this is the volume of Brunson. The volume of Brunson is out of control. He's running 54 and a half pick and rolls per 100 possessions.
Well, like, that's because when Julius was out, it was Brunson, and it never went back. Before it was a mix of Julius. Now they got Cat, but it's still Brunson's team, and Cat is okay with playing the backseat and just setting screens.
He's a really nice pick and roll partner. It's a lot of pick and rolls. Hero up around 33, Halliburton up around 40 per 100. DeRozan 21, Cam Thomas around 30. Like Cam hasn't been there for a while, but he still qualifies for this. I think one thing that to me, if you think about these guys, like besides DeRozan, and DeRozan is very much like DeRozan's incredibly efficient at his game. We talked with Neil Payne about DeRozan, and I think like one thing is DeMar is in the bottom. He's last in assist percentage when it comes to pick and roll. Like DeMar's pick and roll is about DeMar. He's just really good at doing his thing. So I kind of like move him to his own subcategory. He exists on his own, just his own island, DeMar's island. But Hero, Halliburton, Brunson, Cam Thomas, those are all guys that can shoot the ball. Those are all guys that can shoot a floater. Those are all guys that can make really good decisions in terms of breaking coverage. And I feel like if you're going to be one of the top guys running pick and roll, you got to be able to do those 3 things. If you can't shoot the ball on soft switches or unders, if you can't break pick and roll coverages by either shooting floaters or finding lobs, like it's going to be really tough to be one of the best pick and roll guys in the league.
100%. And the reason why that was interesting to me, and obviously this is all usage and who's available and who's not, because some of the guys, and some of them are still around today, best pick and roll guys in the history of the game, Luka Doncic and James Harden, because that's what they do. Obviously they do some ISO, but they're at their best and they're most efficient when they have a lob threat. When Dallas got Gafford and Lively, it's hard as hell to guard them. But even when they had Keebler and Powell that were lob threats at a point, they even had JaVale at a point. But anytime you give Luka a lob guy, you had James with Capella. He had Dwight some, but with him and Clint Capella, you see Trae Young with Clint Capella when Clint was at his best. Hard as hell because he had the floaters, hard to guard him. Even Darius Garland getting to that quick right, getting downhill. He's got an unbelievable floater, and you got Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. It's like, pick your poison. What are you gonna do? It's like, damn. So
That's my guy.
interesting that
You brought up my guy in terms of like breaking coverage. Like he's my number one. Like he's the guy.
Darius.
Oh my goodness, I feel like he has a gear in him, and he's there when it comes to like the top 10 guys of just him in the pick and roll. Like he ranks 8th. Like he's up 1.1, like almost 1.11. Like he's up there. But like in terms of him understanding how to break the 2v1 big and floater versus lob. Like 2 years ago, I worked with a guy in Cleveland, and our guy Ed Davis was there. Sometimes I talk to Ed about this, but like Darius's breakout year in the pick and roll was one of the best years that I've seen in terms of guy coming into his own and float versus lob. And it felt like he never made a wrong decision. And the Cavs really springboarded that year. That was when Lowry was there, Colin Sexton was there. They springboarded that year. And that was one of those things where his ascension into, I'm a guy that you can't put in a box because he can shoot it, he can float it, and he can make great decisions in terms of breaking
all
bigs.
3 levels. Outside of his first year, he was the worst historic player statistically or percentage or PR wise. I didn't believe that when he told me, but he had the worst probably rookie year supposedly in the history of the game. But yes, he had grown into a player, and he can dance, man. And it's hard when a guy's that quick, can dance and shifty, and a lot of it because he's so quick. It maybe carries and walks and travels, but because it's so quick, you don't know how to react. He's gonna pause, he's gonna wait, see, he's gonna give you a couple shimmies, dance, hip twist, and then see where your hips go, and hit you with a couple double crossovers between the legs, and then he might get to his floater, he might get to a double step back, he might get downhill to a floater, or throwing his bigs who are really good, Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, at catching them. So
it just feels like he doesn't miss a read. He's second this year in shooting percentage on floaters. He's shooting 67.5% on floaters. And it feels like he doesn't miss a read to me. Like the one gripe I have with Darius, I wish he would shoot it more. Like when I watched him, I haven't watched him every single game like I did.
I think that happened more when Don got there. This year, started off slow, but when Don got there, he started taking more of a backseat. So
yeah. It just feels like, to me, it feels like he's one of those guys. Like I know there's not another Steph Curry, but it feels like, to me, like he's one of those guys that has just unlimited potential in terms of stretching the defense, and not only doing a great job of stretching it, but once he gets inside of it, making great decisions. And there's no difference. Like the way that Trae Young plays the game and Darius plays the game, very different. But like I would love for him to start ratcheting up and be like, you know what, I will shoot it from out here. Like this 1-on-3 or 1-on-3 fast break, 3-on-1, I will pull this thing up because like he can shoot it. Like he can really shoot it.
He knows himself, and I think he's starting, like Tyler Hero, of picking and choosing the right moments and when he's hot and when he's not. And I think for him, it's like, if I'm not feeling it great today, I'm going to pick and choose when I shoot the 3. And also depending on how often I'm on the ball, because Don is on the ball most of the time.
Yeah.
They haven't had Struce yet, but they've been winning and playing games. I don't know what Kenny. Now you got Evan Mobley bringing the ball up some.
That's one of my favorites. Like when we and
him starting the offense.
Yes, and you look through. I'm surprised. I wouldn't be shocked if he's on this list. Like eventually, where we start to see like
surprised CP and Wembenyama is not on it. But I mean, they just haven't had the numbers of games.
I've seen CP
set a screen for him.
Okay. They're just lower. They're lower down there. They're not on the handoff list. I don't know that like Wembenyama has the frame and the leverage, in terms of where his hips are to be a handoff guy, but Mobley, I wouldn't be shocked if we start to see Mobley and Mitchell or Mobley and Garland up here on this best handoff combo list, because Mobley pushing it, he reminds me of Bam. He reminds me of Sabonis in that way where he can handle the ball. He can play making the short roll. Like I saw one against Boston where he was in the short roll on an empty corner one, lob to Allen, help up the lane. Like he can go finish it himself, like 6 threes against Charlotte. Like I don't know that he's going to be like necessarily like scary pick and pop guy this year, but like there's
he's capable.
Yeah. And there's only so many elements. Like if you're a screener, there's a few elements. There's pick and pop, there's playmaking in the short roll, there's floater in the short roll, there's finishing from the short roll, and then there's like lob threat. So like these are the elements that you have. And like these 5 elements, I don't know that there's a guy in the league that has all of them, but like he seems like the one that has the chance to have all of them. Because what can that guy not do? He can catch lobs. We've seen that. He can play make in the short roll. He can finish. He can float in the short roll. Like if the pick and pop comes along, is he not the guy that puts this whole package together?
I mean, yeah, when he was coming out or up and coming. He's more there, still not fully there yet. The comparison was Anthony Davis, right? Like that's who the guy that can do all those things is, right? You know, they'll defend, rebound, assist, run the floor, DHO, pick and roll, pick and pop. You know, he can do a little bit of all of those. And Joel's one of those guys too. And Jokic is one of those guys. They're centers, but the guys that build it's Anthony Davis and him.
Yeah. And it feels like Bam and AD are in the same vein as Mobley, where like they can put all 5 elements together, and it's really rare. And guys that can do that, like they're not league minimum guys. Like those are the dudes that they move the needle. Like they move the needle, and they're the ones that can keep you from not being able to be put in a box. All right, last one. We got the best pick and roll combos. And to me, this speaks about what we were talking about with putting a combination in a box. It's how complementary can your skills be to one another. And right off the jump, like you see this thing where if you can put these elements together, one thing that stands out here is all of these guys that are the bigs here, they all have something special that they can do, that they can lean into, and then you can play off that advantage. So
yeah.
Halliburton and Siakam.
Except for Isaiah, I guess Isaiah is somewhat of pick and pop, right?
I think he's got a little pick and pop.
Most of these guys can pick and pop. Bam is the only one that's.
But Bam's got that. Bam's got that really, like, one thing that's nice is like when you play these 2-man games, like it's all about what skills do I have that amplify yours, and what skills do you have that amplify mine. And like Hero and Bam are the only 2 that are in the top 5 in pick and rolls and handoffs. And I think one thing is like Hero has enough funk to him on the ball that he can run pick and roll. He's also got enough shooting to him that like he can run these speed, DHO, and handoff actions. And it really makes one thing very clear. Like with the shooting, you got to be up at the level. And if you're up at the level and Bam can catch it going 4v3 or 3v2, like Bam's got that creativity. He's got floaters in the short roll. He's got kind of like some quirkiness to his game. And I think it's all about having these skills that amplify the others. And so to me, Halliburton and these guys, like we got pick and pop here that's like really, really prevalent. We got pick and pop with Brunson and Towns. What do you
that makes sense. I like Brunson and Towns. The Tyrese Halliburton with Miles and Pascal is shock. I mean, I guess they do play at a faster pace, right? Carlisle likes to get up and down. They're not scoring as much as they were last year, but I'm just shocked that they're up at the top. Like there's so many other teams that are, maybe there's injuries, but that have better records that are winning and scoring more points per possession.
Yeah,
in totality than Indiana Pacers. So that's more shocking to me than anything. Cade has been unbelievable this year, playing well. Isaiah is a shocker to me, but Cade has been great. And I'm just thinking because he's so great at what he does, it opens up the floor for Isaiah. Tyler and Bam, of course, the Heat's on a heater. They've been beating teams left and right the last 5 or 6 games. You know, I think they got Cleveland. They ended up getting Lakers by 41. They ended up beating somebody else. They've been winning some games, so they're kind of picking it up some. So yeah, other than that, the only surprise is this Indiana in general. You know, Tyrese is very good on the ball, and he's a good pure point assist guy. So he's little passes over him getting his big opener, Pascal Miles open makes sense. But the fact that to their point per possession or higher than other teams that are more successful and have more points overall is what shocks me.
Yeah. With Halliburton, what's interesting to me is that if you go through the second spectrum, you look to see who has the highest percentage of the screener taking the shot in the pick and roll action. He's actually second. He's basically tied for first with Chris Paul, but both of them, about 25% of the time, the screener takes the shot. So not even like pass to the screener and then we're playing from an advantage, but screener shot. And I think that speaks so much to, and guys up there like Brunson's up there, guys like that, but like pick and pop, and the way that pick and pop has kind of changed the geometry of how these actions are run. Like Wembenyama is a pick and pop guy or a lob guy. And I think there's an element of I don't know if he's going to be able to play the short roll because of like his dimensions of his body, but the other two, you know, pick and pop, he just hit a massive one to beat the Pelicans. They were tied up like end of game. I think like the element of being able to do 2 things really, really well might be better than being able to do like a few kind of well, if that makes sense.
I think he's going to be up there once he gets the right guys. I mean, he has CP there. He's a little older. He's not getting as many reps with him. Stephon Castle, a young rookie, up and coming in him. Or again, you know, Vassell or Keldon, you know, one of those guys. But if they get he gets the right people, the right group with him, it'll be great for him. I think he'll be in that top pick and roll for sure. I don't know about DHOs and get actions, but pick and roll.
Yeah.
He's a cheat code when it comes to lob threat and pick and pop and shooting threes. Yeah,
You
can do both
called
those very
one of
well.
his games in Utah recently. Like you're doing a few Spurs games this year. You saw him live in person. Like what was your feel? Because he had a good one that night, and
He did.
He has a jumper. It's sometimes like the shot selection, like the way that I want Garland. I wish Garland had the confidence that Wembanyama
That
had.
Wemby has.
Yeah, Wemby's he's not scared to
He's
let
not
him go.
bashful.
No,
He's
no,
not
no,
shy.
no.
He lets him go.
But it's a weapon when he can pick and pop. And the one he shot against the Pelicans, it came off of like he let a heat check go earlier, like a 30-foot trail three earlier, but then the pick and pop
one-legged. Is that the one-legged three?
in rhythm, on balance, like for the game. Like it's such a weapon because he's so good vertically at spacing the floor, and then he's really good spacing the floor out like that. What was it like watching him in person, and what's kind of your feel of him as a pick and roll screener?
I mean, watching him before I got a chance to see him in person, he exceeded all my expectations. I didn't think he'd be as good or as smart. He was very mature and ahead of the curve when it comes to a rookie. This year, he's only gotten IQ has gotten better, more comfortable within himself. And so the fact that his percentages were a little lower, I wasn't sure of his shot selection and seeing how he's picking them. That game, he had a really good game, and it showed that he can shoot it if he's open. And it's tough and difficult with a big to, be picky, any star player. But when you're a big and you're shooting that many threes and people are like, look, it's okay to mix it up. I think and he's realistically he's a shooter. He shoots it well.
He can shoot the ball.
So it's like shoot first. But when you're that height, people like as bigs, naturally they just want you to shoot the open ones. And
it's
not
a
the stigma,
ones. Isn't it?
Right?
Like just because he's 7'3" or however big, it's a stigma. They're like, no, wait, shouldn't you be
unless
closer?
You become Porzingis and you do it consistently for some years, and it's all you do, but that's Porzingis' main go-to. He could be that, but Wemby's good enough and young enough to mix it up and still do inside stuff. So that's why they're like, you can get to the basket whenever you want, or you can shoot over guys whenever you want, hook shot, get the percentages or keep the percentages high and get the threes, and you keep your 3-point percentage higher. Pick and choose the right ones. Or if you hit your first 2 or 3, cool, but your first one shouldn't be like highly contested. First 2 or 3 transition.
It's not a trail 30-footer.
20 seconds on the shot clock. Like, no. 20 seconds on the shot clock, like take your time. Touch the paint first. We don't mind those. And that's kind of for everybody, not just the shooters in our league, but coaches, they don't mind threes, but they just want it to be uncontested and ones where at least get an opportunity to touch the paint and make the defense, shrink or change sides of the floor or something like that.
You know what I was thinking of when you said this? And this was like, I've worked with guys who are like really good shooters, and I've worked with guys who wish they believed they were better shooters but didn't. But like one thing that comes to mind of like shot selection is like, I always think of like the Joker from The Dark Knight, where he's like,
yes,
he's basically saying like, okay, I think he's on the ship and he's talking about like if he tells everybody that this is going to happen, the ship's going to blow up, like it's okay. But if nobody says it, everybody loses their mind. Right. And it's like, it's like if you shoot one, even if it's a 25-footer or whatever it is, and if you shoot it from a paint kick out, and if you shoot 3 in a row and you miss 3 in a row, like it's fine. Everybody wants you to take that shot. But if you take a 30-footer in transition, like first shot of the game, everybody's like, whoa, come on now. Yeah. Everybody loses their mind. That's all I thought of when you said that.
Yeah. So it's part of the game. It's that as a big, the stigma is, and it's hard to, it's going to be tough for him to kind of, fight it, but to deal with is to pick and choose in the moments and when and when not should be taking, certain types of threes, because ultimately he's very good at doing other stuff too. I'm not saying Porzingis isn't, but we know his strong point. He spaced the floor very deep, and he's gotten a little older. He has some injuries, so he's staying away from the paint a little bit more. Wemby is still very young and can shoot over anybody anywhere and can get to the basket. So they're like, let's mix it up some and keep the defense honest.
Yeah. Well, the last guy I want to talk about, and this is like an interesting little quirk, and I don't know if it's nothing, something, or everything, because this team is like potentially a championship team and they've lost a little bit of juice this year. And they had a big trade, but the T-Wolves and Anthony Edwards. So one thing that I'm always curious about is like, we went through this read tree when it comes to DHOs or pick and roll, and so much of two-man game basketball is if then. If the defense is up at the level, then we want to get it in the slip. if the defense isn't up at the level, then we want to get a shot. If the defense goes under and we can't shoot, then we want to get a rescreen. Like, and then we talk about breaking coverage. Like everything is if then. So one thing that's always curious to me of like, what are the coverages? Like who's at the top level of blitz coverages? So I just went through and filtered to like the offensive player because I think it's, team defense is like, it's very conceptual. Like it's like, these are our habits. This is what we're going to do. But like when you see a player who's playing 29 other teams and like these teams are kind of leaning in and like blitzing a lot more, I think like that's kind of something because it's like, hey, we really think like we want to get it out of your hands. So Anthony Edwards leading the league in being blitzed in the pick and roll. He's getting blitzed almost 17% of the time. He's running 41 pick and rolls per 100 possessions, and he's getting blitzed almost 17% of the time. To me, that says that people are looking at him and they're saying, you're not going to beat us scoring the ball. And we don't believe you can beat us passing the ball. And we don't believe your other four can do it. And they're hitting some weird, like rocky stuff right now. Like, is that something or nothing?
Is this only in pick and rolls or is this
So only in pick and rolls. I'm not looking at ISOs or anything, but like he's running 40. Okay. So like Brunson's running 54. Something. Yeah, like Brunson's running 54 and we're losing our minds. He's running 41. Like he's not far behind. Like there's a lot of pick and rolls in his life. And
how often is Brunson getting doubled?
Oh no, I didn't do that much research.
Dan. Probably not a lot. You know why? Because the pieces around him are like you got Cat, OG.
Well, this is like the most interesting thing because
Josh.
Who just came from Minnesota?
Julius is good, but I think they lost some with the threat of not having Cat and then also having Rudy on the floor. You don't have as many stretch people that can shoot it, right? Or many offensive threats. So Knicks have more offensive threats. Bring DiVincenzo off the bench. Obviously, Mike Conley can shoot it. Their wing defender.
For him.
I forget Jaden. I'm getting his
Jaden McDaniels.
He can shoot it decently, but like. They're not looking at them as like, if we help off them, they're super threat. You know what I'm saying? So, and they know Ant Edwards is in attack mode. He's going to try. He'll score 30 or 40 if you let him. If you don't let him, he's going to score 30 or 40. So, if it was ISO, it'd be different. I would say even Jokic, like it's hard to double him. It was hard. Even it's Bron, like even Bron effect. Like he's so good of a passer, But also there's other guys like Joel and Anthony Davis. Like it's like all right, they might have good guys around them. But we believe he's not good enough passing out of the double team to hurt us. And when he does pass out of the double team, it's not on time, on target where we can recover.
Yeah.
And those guys are very good, skilled offensive players, and they can pass decently enough, but not as great as a LeBron or Jokic.
Yeah. All right. You want me to give you who's tops in the league in blitz percentage? Who's getting blitzed the most in pick and rolls? So at the top of the list, we got Anthony Edwards, almost 17%. Second, interesting enough, Brandon Ingram. 15.5%. People are like, get it. I mean, maybe that's more so of like who was playing around him and not so much Brandon, but an interesting number. Next up, third, James Harden. 10% of the time he's getting blitzed.
Under Brandon Ingram, because they have nobody. Everybody's hurt. He was the only person on the floor.
He was the only one on the floor. Only one on the floor. And then next up, Kyrie around 10%. So like those are the guys, and like that list, the list is littered. Like anybody above 7%. Here are some of the guys that are above 7: Luka, Trae Young, Steph Curry, Shea, Tatum, Booker, Lillard, Brandon Miller, Cam Thomas, and Zach LaVine. So it's like it's a who's who of players. Like there's guys who you're really scared of doing it. But like I think one thing that's interesting is like Luka is so far down on the list. Ant is so far up. And I think it's because what you talked about earlier of like Luka can pick you apart. Like Lively's good in the short roll. Lively's good.
The lob threat, and then also having Clay and Kyrie doesn't hurt you on the wing. So you have those threats, and that lob threat is hard. And it's like, and Luka's so good at picking you apart. It's like we'd rather just let him beat us one-on-one because he's gonna get his points regardless. Like, all right, he's gonna have to beat us with his points. And James as well is so good at not only scoring but finding other guys and getting other guys involved. It's a problem when he's scoring his 25, 30, and other guys are getting involved.
Yeah.
Instead of him just getting 30 or 40 and nobody else touches the ball, then it's like, all right, that's better for us.
So leaving on this one, and Anthony Edwards, what is the evolution? Like what do you want to see if he's getting blitzed this much? Is it more about him just accepting the fact, like, I've done my job, I've brought two to the ball, like go play make it? And it's tough. If it's Julius, like no problem. Like go play make Jules. If it's Rudy, it's not so much of like go play make Rudy. Like that's a different equation. So like, what do you want to see from him? Do you want to see him trust Rudy more in slipping it out? Like, do you want to see how that goes? Like, what's the next evolution? Because that's coming around in the playoffs. Like, he was one of the most blitz guys.
I think it's more so being smart of who you're allowing to set screens for you.
And so schematically, you want to see it.
Yes, and as much as said, I'm not like one of those Rudy haters. I'm not a not Rudy fan, but I just don't trust him as being the quarterback in a Draymond situation most of the time. You got to get Julius more in the pick and roll for you. So I trust him more offensively with picking and popping or making a play. Nas Reed, those guys. And mix it up with Rudy, and also mix it up with allowing the trap to happen and then attacking the trap. You know, when I was with Darius in Cleveland, for him, we were playing in Brooklyn, and they weren't terrible, but they haven't been great for some time. They had all the wings, you know, Finney Smith, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Royce O'Neal, all of those guys were there. And he's a small guard. And I'm like, yo, these guys are slow as hell. Compared to you, you don't need to let them blitz you. Like, he's allowing the blitz and trying to throw over them, and they're getting deflections and getting steals and turnovers. I said, if you don't run around that and drive by that guy that's blitzing you, he's slow as shit. You can make the pass after, take a dribble off, go around him, or speed dribble off right around his leg, and you can still score or make the pass after that. But to accept the trap and allow them to just, trap you, it doesn't make sense. So Anthony Edwards can do both of those because he's so explosive, speed wise and athletically. So he can easily, play into the trap, he can jump over the trap to pass. He can outrace that big whoever's coming around him. For him. And so he can mix it up, what I'm saying, where he's doing a little bit of both, of hitting a short roller, allowing them to play, but ultimately being aggressive and making that big think, making them try to make a switch, making getting a 3-ball off, or mostly, you said, hitting the roller or speeding around him and making a play after beating the big outside or splitting the trap, because bigs are not used to being up like that. And they're not comfortable being out that far on the floor.
Yeah. Maybe some handoffs. Handoffs always, they give that element of like, I can throw, I can get it, I can backdoor this thing, I can kind of like put a little bit of fear into, you don't want to be so far up the level, because if I get it going backdoor, now I'm playing 4 versus 3 instead of Rudy playing 4 versus 3. So
getting in positions where they can't trap you is easy. And that's one thing Doc did do, and that was ice almost like at the elbow. It's harder to trap from the elbow, but he can set a pick and roll. And Tony used to do this, but it's probably easier to trap there. But that deep pick and roll, like CP and Blake used to do, if you got now, you can trust Rudy a little more because he's closer to the basket.
Yeah, because he's a great lob threat. I mean,
it's a lob threat or a dunk or layup. So getting it down deep in the paint or down lower, instead of so high up on the floor, or instead if you're going to speed around them, take it up really high and then see how comfortable big is guarding you out there. Race to the rim. Are you going to miss the name? So picking and choosing, mixing it up.
I saw Rudy at a pickup game at UCLA. I don't know. Like I've been around footers. I don't know that I saw like a human like that before. Like he was the low man help on like one side on his own. Like he was just a one-eye low man help. And like I was looking at him and it looked like his arm, one was at like the college 3-point line and his other arm was somehow in the middle of the paint. Like he
covers a lot.
He's a different type of human. Like he's not from where you and I are from.
I mean, there's a reason why he's been defensive player of the year. Like him and Wemby are very similar in build, even though Wemby makes him look a little shorter, but he covers a lot of ground and he's very good at stopping the lob, blocking shots, protecting the rim. And also because he doesn't care to get dunked on. You got to have a fearless mindset of, I don't care. I'm going for everything. And if you dunk it, cool. You better dunk it. So he doesn't give a damn. All
right, man. This has been fun. 2-man games, get actions, DHOs, pick and rolls. I got to be honest. I thought your favorite partner was going to be Boris Diaw. And
I like Boris.
And I'm a little hurt it wasn't, because I really wanted to talk Boris Diaw.
He was so good at screening, but the pick and pop, he was scared. He didn't want to shoot it sometimes. I'm like, Boris, you got to shoot it. And he was good in the short roll. Like him and DeJuan Blair are very good in short roll because they could shoot floaters and, play the Draymond before Draymond. They were that guy. They could play the 2-on-1 through him and Tiago or him and whoever, Timmy, or find a 3-pointer. But he wasn't also a lob threat as much, even though I missed him on the lob. My bad, Boris. I missed you on lob that I was supposed to throw to you. out of a timeout, and I believe he would have caught it, but I didn't trust it.
I was a little sad. He's like my kind of quirky. Like I like some quirkiness in the short roll. Like I like some quirkiness in DHO handoffs. Like I like a little quarterback, like, you know, fake handoff stuff, like keep it. Like I like all that.
Very crafty. He's very crafty. It's because he came in as a damn point guard. It ended up being a 4-man. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, this is a European big at this point, everybody compares to Jokic, but European bigs are very fundamental, can pass, have good touch. Yes, that was Boris.
Yeah, you gotta have a little creativity. He reminds me of Bam a little bit. Like Bam's got a little bit of Boris, like in that short roll and the floater, stuff like that. All right, man, this has been fun. Hopefully we've given some good read keys. Hopefully we've given some good information. Thanks for bopping by. Anything going on? Any fun stories that you want to leave us with?
No fun stories, man. Just some fun up and coming jobs. You know,
what we got?
Some stuff with ESPN, some stuff with Turner, some stuff with FanDuel here and there. So I'm excited. Might call a game soon in New Year, but we got the holidays coming up, man.
Okay.
So
what's the
Merry
green Christmas tradition?
We don't have one yet.
Are you going to start one this year?
We are slowly coming into our own.
Because you're a family now. Like
yes,
yeah.
Adding the lights, the tree, and starting of how we want to do, you know, family, who comes and visits, when, what dinners, how, you know, that type of thing. So it's a lot harder when they're younger. So when it gets older, and maybe when we're done having them, we're looking to have more, but we'll see. But we're going to start with slowly but surely doing tradition. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll need to get an update on what the tradition is. We'll need to get an update on who's coming to town, who's invited for dinner, who's on the list, who's checking it twice, all that stuff. 100%. Daniel Green, father to Jade, Nuke, Gizmo. What was the other snake's name?
For him,
there was Lightning. Lightning was one of them.
Lightning.
And the other one, I forget his name.
Damn. Man, he must have really pissed you off.
I had Jon Snow. Jon Snow was one.
He must have really made you mad. You forgot his name. Damn snake.
Jon Snow was fire. Jon Snow was dope. But yeah.
All right, Danny Green. Thanks for popping by, man. We'll catch you on the next one.
Sure, brother. Anytime.
All right.